What's up, guys? It's George, and in this video I want to talk with you about addictions and how to overcome addictions. I've been in the unique position where I've been able to coach and work directly one-on-one with addicts for years now. I've coached alcoholics and drug addicts, and then also coached people through much more milder type of addictions. But regardless, addictions nonetheless, addictions regardless of what the substance is or what it is someone's trying to overcome, is still can be very crippling and very what's the word? Challenging to get around. Addiction can be like trying to find your way out of a maze that you just can't find the exit. And so the thing is, behind all addictions, regardless of what it is, behind all addictions lies pain, lies an underlying hidden pain. And this is typically very difficult for most people to see and understand and comprehend. Because you really gotta, and this is why it's helpful to have someone that you're working with, or a third party, or whatever, or going to a course or seminar, or a situation that can dive deep and really poke and prod to find out what this pain. Because most people, I have no pain, I don't know what you're talking about. Because as humans, we're very good at pushing our problems, especially the important ones, sweeping them under the rug. And what happens is they pop up in various different ways in our life, such as addictions. And so there was a study that was done decades ago. This is an old study, a famous study, and this was they used rats, and what they did in this experiment, they took these rats and they put them in, they put them each in their own individual cage. These rats, and in the cage they had two things of water. They had just one that was just like a normal little water thing that could go up and lick and and get the water from, and then they had another little water bottle that they could get from that was laced with heroin. And guess what happened? The rats got addicted to the heroin. Imagine that. They get helplessly addicted to the heroin. Go figure. Well, wait, this is where it gets interesting. So they had a second control group of these rats, and in this experiment what was different was that they still had the two water bottles in there, the regular water, and then they also had the water that was laced with heroin. And but what was different is that this cage was created as a rat paradise. It had toys and things it could play on, and it actually had other rats in there as well that it could socialize with and mate or whatever. And it was like a rat paradise. And what was fascinating is that the rats didn't become addicted to the drug-laced water. Instead, they just only drank the regular water. They tested out the other water, but then they didn't like it and they went to the normal water. And this blew scientists' mind. Wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't they get addicted to it in this environment as well? But what they discovered, and this was such a major breakthrough in understanding addiction, is that is environment. Poor environment is one of the leading causes of leading up to an addiction. See, in the first scenario, the rats had no meaning in their life. They were just in this empty, lonely, miserable cage with nothing to do, nothing to socialize with, no toys, nothing. Just just like a tiny little rat cage. So why not get addicted to the heroin water? There was like no other choice. It had no meaning in its life. And then in the second scenario, the rats, could socialize, they could play, their environment was ideal, so they didn't require the heroin, the drug-laced water to get those feel-good emotions and to find meaning. And so, as this was a major breakthrough, because this started to identify the root causes behind addiction and how important our environment is, and how big of a role our environment plays in addiction. And guys, I hope that really soak this in, what I'm going to be sharing here, because this is so key, and you can use this awareness to help yourself or maybe others that with addiction. And an environment is molded in a lot of different ways. As humans, we're complex creatures, and so our environment is shaped by a lot of different factors. Our environment is shaped by our immediate surrounding, where we live, where we work, those we socialize with, and If you have a really tough home life, then that can be more likely to lead to seeking out ways to find pleasure and run away from the pain, such as addiction. Also, another way of a poor environment is having health ailments, health problems. Maybe you're struggling with some really difficult health challenge. Again, that's part of your environment. Maybe you feel like you have much meaning in your life because you're just working a job that you don't really like. You don't have a lot of friends, so because you don't have a lot of meaning, it doesn't feel like you have meaning in your life. Then you're seeking out something to bring you some pleasure in your life. Or maybe you're in a really tough relationship, or you're stressed out being a parent, and you feel overwhelmed, or maybe you have a business that's causing you a lot of stress. And so there's a lot of different factors that can come into play as far as our environment goes. But in working with people, I can always, and addicts, I can always, in digging in and asking questions, I can always find where in their environment lies the problem. And a big one of the biggest that a lot of people don't like to address, but it is so important, is our environment up here, and especially addressing the emotional traumatic events that you've been through in your life. And this is especially key because most people are very good at sweeping this under the rug, and we don't realize that the traumatic situations that we went through in our life, and typically they have to do when you were very young, if you don't address them and become at peace with them, then they will haunt you for the rest of your life and pop up and all kinds of various different problems. That's one of the most critical components to creating an ideal environment, is this guy right here. You got to live with this guy, and if your environment is haunted due to the traumas of your past, then it's going to be then what'll happen is if you break one addiction, another one will pop up. It would be nice if it was so easy to break an addiction just by going 30 days, get through the physical withdrawal stage, and then you're all fine and dandy. That would be nice. Life would be a lot easier if that's how addiction worked. But it's not like that, because if you don't heal and work on the underlying traumas, the situations, the pain from your early life, then the addictions will just come back. You'll relapse, or you'll replace one addiction with another, and it doesn't have to be a substance. Maybe the addiction will become food. Maybe you quit drinking alcohol, and then all of a sudden you start, you become a binge eater, addicting to food, or maybe you playing video games all day long every day, or whatever, or porn. The addiction will pop up in some way, one way, shape, or another. And so a lot of times when I'm coaching with people, when I'm working with people who are addicts, and I can find quickly, where we got to work on, and asking, I'll ask a various sets of questions to find out, and then I'll also ask, what about, I'll try to find out about what's your relationship with your mother and father. Oh, it's fine. It has nothing to do with it. All right, bingo. Here we go. And and people don't like this. But this is the thing, guys. And this goes deeper more than I can even go into this video. But this is why you need to do some soul searching. And if you're struggling with addictions, then I highly recommend to read some books on addiction, and maybe even take a seminar or course, work with somebody, because addictions are very simple to break once you've addressed the underlying issues, which typically one of the biggest is the emotional traumas that you've swept under the rug. And a lot of times it's from your earlier life, and maybe this is extremely painful and emotional, and makes you want to cry, and that's why you don't want to think about it. Maybe you were sexually molested as a child, or you had a dad that beat you when you were a kid, or a mom that was an alcoholic and would verbally abuse you, or whatever the situation was. A lot of times, I just don't even want to think about it. Because life's easier when you don't think about it. At least we think it is. It's just so, I don't need to think about it. I don't need to go back down that road, right? I don't need to go back down. But yes, the obstacle is the way. That's the thing about spiritual growth, growing personally, mentally, and spiritually. The obstacle is the way. Where the pain is, where the emotional pain is, that's the way. That's the ticket. That's the door you got to go through. Even though the handle is burning hot and you don't want to open it, that's the one you got to go through. And again, this is more, I can even go into this video, but I want to share some simple, practical advice, some tips that you can begin to do to heal. First off, you need to recognize the trauma that you've been through in your life. You either have to do some soul searching or work with somebody that's good enough that they can prod you and poke you to find out, where the hidden hurt is from your younger life. And then once you identify it, the key is becoming at peace with it. Get at peace with it. You have to forgive it, and this is this can actually be surprisingly healed relatively quickly, in one meditation. But typically, depending on what it is, it may take a series. You have to meditate on it, send love to the situation. I know that may be hard, depending, what happened. It was really traumatic. Send love to it, forgive it, see who it was who did you wrong, who hurt you. Forgive them. Send love their way. Understand that the reason why they did what they did to you was because they had their own emotional baggage that they never healed from their life. They probably had a lot of traumatic things that happened to them when they were a kid or young, and they never healed it, so it got, thrown onto you. But you want to be the bigger person, and you want to end the chain. You don't want to keep passing it on to your kids and their kids and so on. You can be the one that stops with you. And the first step is becoming aware, awareness, becoming aware, recognizing where the pain is, and then forgiving it, becoming at peace with it. Understand that, and this is also difficult for people to see, is that, there is no such thing as good or bad. Everything, it's just humans who put these subjective labels on things, but, it just is. Everything, we just can't understand why everything happens the way it is. A lot of times it's hard for us to see the bigger picture, and it hurts due to certain experiences, but nothing is good or bad. It's not like, I eat a plant-based diet, but I'm not angry at wolves and lions because they kill and eat other animals. That would be silly. I just understand, that's their nature, and it's just it is what it is, and so you gotta see, nothing is really good or bad in life. It's how we perceive it, and understand that you can't always. It can be hard to see the bigger picture of why things happened the way it did, and maybe whatever happened to you was the universe's way of putting this massive master test lesson in your life that you were supposed to learn, so that once you overcame it, then you could become a teacher and a guide and a helper and a coach or whatever, or an inspiration to other people. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why you were gifted with the traumatic events that you were dealt in your life, so that way you could be a healer of some sort and healing other people. So that may be why. Turn your mess into a message, right? Turn the mess that happened to you into a gift. And so once that happens, once you get to the underlying root of the problem, what is the pain that you're running from? If you're an alcoholic, what's the pain that you're running from? If you're a drug addict, no matter what it is, what's the pain? You got to do some soul searching. You really got to dig deep and just reflect back. Think in your mind. All right, go back and try to see, when is the earliest, most traumatic pain that you can remember in your life? Maybe the first one, all right, when I was 15, this happened. All right, now take a minute to go even younger. All right, can you remember something really traumatic that stuck out, when you were younger? All right, I remember this one from 10 years old. Now go deeper. Can you remember when, actually, I remember this one when I was 7. And then keep going deep. And all of a sudden you'll remember, oh my gosh, I remember when I was 4 years old. I can remember crying in the corner. My dad came home with a bottle or whatever, and this is where it takes. You got to really dive deep, because our brain, in order to protect us, will just take these traumatic events and shove them under the rug, and we can live our life feeling like it never even happened, right? Even though it could have been the most horrific event. But our brain, in order to protect us as like a protective mechanism, just shoved it under the rug so that we could go on with our life. But the thing is, if you haven't healed it and you haven't become at peace with it, truly at peace, it's one thing just to say it, but another thing is to truly be at peace. Now you're at peace with it when you can talk about the experience and you don't break out into tears crying. And this is how I know, people act like they're healed of something, and then all of a sudden I start asking some questions, boom, the tears, the floodgates start coming, they start tearing and crying. well, they haven't healed it yet. They still got it. You got to be able to get to the point where you can share about the experience, and it's not making you so emotionally, just hysterical over the event. And this, again, to take many times of meditation, of prayer, reflection, maybe working with a professional that can. But guys, this is so powerful, because once you get this and you work on that inner work, then you'll find that regardless of what the addiction is, that it just becomes easier to quit whatever you're trying to quit. You'll find that now that you've, just as simple as that, it's just as simple as that, just addressing whatever the pain is and becoming at peace with it, then the process of healing will become so much simpler, because you'll find that your unconscious isn't trying to run away from this hidden pain and seek pleasure in these various different forms. Now, there still will be work to be done. That's why I said this is more than I can share about just in this one video, but this is really the where you got to start at. And then from there, you have to be willing to accept the fact that you have a problem. Recognize where your vices are, where your addictions are, your anchors that are holding you on, and then work to improve at them. It's a process. It is a process, and most importantly, forgive yourself. It's okay to not to be perfect and to slip up. I've battled with a lot of various different addictions in my life, and so I get it. It's very challenging. It's difficult. But life and the universe hands us exactly what we need so that we can grow into the person that we were meant to become, so that we could turn around and be a guide and a light and a help for others. But it all starts with the inner work, with the self, doing that inner work. And from there, like I said, it becomes a lot simpler. So guys, I highly recommend get some books on addiction if you're struggling with addictions. Learn about addiction. And if necessary, work with a professional, someone that can. I do coaching one-on-one. I'm trying to make this a plug about myself, but of course, if you want to work with me, I'd be glad to help you. And other than that, I hope you all having a great day. And until next time, guys, let's make it a great day, a great week, a great month, a great year. Let's make it a great life. See ya.